come late, they'll be late. Just hit the yes button.
Got it.
All right.
All right.
Well, hey, welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Thank you for being here. If you're not on the call tonight, I'm sure you'll appreciate the dialogue that we're going to have with our special guest. And just as a reminder, Rod and I put out a podcast, sometimes 2 every week. So there's some great background on that. And, we're just grateful to be here. We're going on over 2 years now with the syndicate. And it's been our pleasure to be here, servicing all 3 of us, including Rachel, who's on the call tonight as well. So I'd received some feedback in the last, month or so about, maybe bringing on some special guests that can bring some value to the call, different perspectives. And so I looked at my network, and I'm always going back and forth with Greg on Instagram and watching what he's doing. And I was like, well, I got to have Greg on here. So Greg was on my podcast a few months ago, and we had a great conversation on the show. And I thought he'd be a perfect fit for this group. Now, the topic is health and fitness, but there's a few things that I'm going to throw your way, Greg, that you know a lot about. But why don't we start with maybe giving us a little bit of your background, and then we can work from there, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Yeah, so go for it. Give us some background work-wise and your bodybuilding career.
Okay, so I'm actually at work right now. So I live in Canada and I work for a freight and shipping company. So I work for Purelator. I work in the office. I do logistics as well as dispatch operations. So a little bit of clerical work as well as, your basic Excel style of work. I do that full time. Great job to have, excellent benefits, and honestly allows me to pursue my passions, because a lot of things too that most bodybuilders don't have is something that's stable. They're always depending on clients and stuff like that. And clients are kind of a revolving door. So I liked having the security of having a job in addition to pursuing my passions, which is bodybuilding.
So, Greg, with that being said, I want to lead into a few things. And because I have some insights to you and kind of what your success looks like, you don't just have another job. You've had success in that job, with what you do. And maybe you could talk a little bit about, what your responsibilities are there. Because what I really want people to understand, oftentimes we like to throw excuses at the wall of reasons why we can't do something, and so as a successful entrepreneur, which is one of the things we teach here, is how to work for a company and do a great job and find success there. What are some of your responsibilities, some of the things, hurdles that you've overcome in the job?
So my responsibilities are essentially making sure that, if somebody's in layman's terms, if somebody's ordering something, it's so simple. Everybody's like, I ordered a package from Amazon and I'm waiting for it to get there. But there are so many steps in order just to get there. So I actually started working here as a box thrower. I used to literally be on the line and throwing boxes around, ripping my shirts, sweating 8 hours a day. Randomly, someone actually caught wind that I actually had computer skills. So I got moved temporarily into an office just to kind of try things out while somebody was away. And instead of just doing the basic function of the job where it was just, here's the clerical work, the paper, image it, get rid of it, I ended up having to learn dispatch operations, which took me into the wee hours of the night. I learned the clerical dispatch, which is essentially making sure that every trailer that's going international or just outside of Ontario goes to its exact destination with its exact freight and everything is documented properly. And essentially I moved to the ranks in there. So I made sure that I became a valuable asset to the company where I was multi-trained. So no matter if somebody was down or they needed somebody to work overtime for something, I was available and could do the job effectively.
So, Greg, did you start your bodybuilding career or becoming serious about weights during, the success on this job, or did that come after you got comfortable in this job?
So I always kind of grew up, like I was a chubby kid growing up, active, but I had an appetite that was surpassing my activity levels. So I actually, I got picked on a lot as a kid for it, and it kind of sucked. So one birthday, one of my older sisters got me a weight set, and I got really attached to it. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I kind of just, went by what I saw the older kids doing in the weight room, what I saw online and bodybuilding.com, and kind of just started training, not realizing that what was actually happening to my body. And what was happening was I was, thank God puberty hit like a bus, but it helped that it helped me actually like excel in the sports that I wasn't essentially being picked for. Like I was doing well in basketball, football, track and field. And I realized that the core, at my core, my values all kind of come from weight training.
Mm-hmm.
So even after, like, I was terrible in school. Like I could not focus on a line for the life of me to read something out of like a one-page book. But that discipline, or I wouldn't say discipline, it's just more so I became so physically exhausted from training that I was able to focus more in school. And then that just turned into discipline. That just became repetitive for me. So I could actually sit there and focus and realize, these things kind of go hand in hand for me. Both things are improving my life, my ability to focus in school and my physical well-being. Because I grew up in a family where there really wasn't any physical well-being. It was eat mountains of rice and chicken and you finished your plate. There was no, oh, I'm full, let me stop. So having all this kind of happen to me put me in a position to really think outside the box of what I grew up accustomed to, and ultimately take me along this path that I'm now on, where I can excel at work and excel in bodybuilding.
Do you feel like the discipline, obviously you kind of said it, but maybe you can expand on it a little bit, the discipline that you learned in bodybuilding carrying into your current role, there's some parallels there. And I want people to understand how important it is. We have a trainer that's in our group here tonight. The importance of having discipline outside of work kind of grows in all facets of your life, right?
Oh, 100%. Like most people, it's like, obviously, yes, I said like this is my full-time job here, but bodybuilding is a full-time job in itself. Whether you're making sure that you're sleeping on time, you're getting up every morning to do your cardio if you have to, making sure you hit the gym at a certain point in time, making sure you're getting all your meals in. All this requires a level of discipline where you can't make excuses. And I think that's for anybody in life. When you want something, you don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Like I also train clients as well, like in person. And maybe it's cruel, but I'm not one for excuses when someone tells me I'm too busy to make a meal. I don't find that accurate at all. You could pick a day in a week to cook a couple meals of the week, make sure you're set up. There's meal prep services for this. There really is no excuse to like help yourself get in shape.
Yeah. Tell us about your time management style, because obviously you've alluded to the amount of time that you do commit to bodybuilding as well as training clients. And we already understand that you work a full-time, very important job. What does your time management scheduling look like and systems?
So for me, I like to I'm very old school. I like an old school calendar.
Mhm.
So I have one calendar that's physically with me, like a notebook. And I also have a physical calendar at home on the wall. So that's typically right in the bathroom with me, actually. So as I'm brushing my teeth, I'll look around, I'll turn back at the calendar, be like, okay, so I have this to do today. If I know I have to get up, or if I have to know if I have to be a client, say 7 a.m., I have 45 minutes of cardio to do. I need to be up at least an hour and a half early to make sure that I can successfully do my cardio, shower, and make sure I'm out the house with food to see this client and make sure that I'm giving them the best and the most of my attention to make sure they succeed and get to their goals. And all this before work. And
Mhm.
within that same day, I'm still training myself. So I make sure that I never take on more than I can. That's the most important thing. You want to make sure that there is enough hours in the day for you to do what you're doing and to the best of your ability. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. And I think I found a balance between scheduling myself between the two calendars and keeping constant check with clients and making sure like, hey, just confirming your appointments to making sure we're good to go. And I think that's where I found my balance ultimately. And knowing that if I'm at work, I'm at work. The bodybuilding comes second, unless you want to consider me eating every 3 hours at work.
Right. Just as a group, give us an estimate of how many hours you spend at your job, your career job, and then how many hours you spend bodybuilding, and then maybe how many hours a week you spend training clients.
At my full-time job right now, I am doing a lot of overtime because I am helping and training somebody currently right now. So anywhere from 8 to 10 hours I spend here. When it comes to clients, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day. And for myself, in the gym, for myself, I would say roughly about an hour to hour 45 minutes. At home, I bought a treadmill to maximize my time and travel. So let's say another 45 minutes there.
Mm. So I know that some people in the group are listening like, well, what about family and relationships and animals and all those other things? Where do you squeeze that in?
So I'm very thankful I do not work weekends. I made it. I actually put my foot down where I don't take any sort of bodybuilding meetings, any photo shoots, nothing on the weekends because the weekends is when I ultimately spend the most time with my family. So I have my girlfriend, I see my mom, and I actually have 4 cats.
Yeah.
I'm a cat dad, and they miss me just as much as a kid would. So I make sure like when it's the weekend, the phone is away, and I'm spending all my time with my family.
Greg, it's one thing to say you're disciplined, and it's another to say how many hours you spend doing each of these things. But understanding the bodybuilding world as I do from yourself and others, in the years that I've been around gyms, if you missed a week of bodybuilding, how detrimental is that to your physical fitness and hitting some of your goals or targets or getting ready for a show? And the reason why I ask this is because I want people to understand how important and how strict you are with your discipline.
I think ultimately, I think before the physical for me, I think it's more of a mental
Mm.
because the gym, like, most people go to the gym, let's just say a commercial gym, for example, and it's more of a social environment for them. For me, it's not that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very social. I can talk to people. But for me, that's when I have the ability, that's my time. And it's my time to sharpen my mind and get myself ready, even just to get to work. Dealing with people, I like to make sure that, I've done everything for myself and put myself in a, I guess, patient zone, if you would call it, or Zen state where I'm having an easier time dealing with people because my job can be pretty stressful dealing with certain people, right? And it's definitely for my nerves, but for the physical sense, missing a week at the gym when especially like right now, I am getting ready for 2 shows in May. There's no missing days. Like I have to be literally very ill to miss a day because I have big goals this year and I want to see them all happen.
I think you let the cat out of the bag that you're training for something in May.
Yep.
Can you,
Hopefully
can
none of my other competitors see this.
Hey, we can look up your bio. And by the way, get your questions ready if you have some. We've got to be cognizant of Greg's schedule because he's still at work. But we can look at your bio. Could you just give us your most recent show and some of your successes in bodybuilding so people get an idea of the level that you've competed?
So last year was my very first pro year. I turned pro in classic physique in 2022. And I took that year off because you're allowed to grow or at least go on stage with more weight. So I took the year off to get ready for that train. So my first show was here in Toronto, where I placed third out of 23 guys. Then, for Canadian athletes, we don't get much shine in the States. So I decided to go all the way to Chicago and compete there, where I placed sixth.
Awesome.
So thankfully, still got to come home with some hardware. So I'm
Yeah.
looking for better placing this year.
Yeah, which I'm sure you'll achieve that. You've also had some success and some sponsorships from people. We met through Flag Nor Fail, and I know that's the sweatshirt you have on tonight.
Hey, there's the missus.
She's done feeding the chickens. Just tell us what some of your sponsors are. Again, and this isn't because I want you to brag about who you are and what you've done. I want people to understand that when you maximize your discipline and your structure and you're motivated, that you can achieve success in several areas in your life, and you've managed to do that. But tell us what some of your sponsors are and maybe briefly what you do for them, and then we'll get a few questions.
So my biggest sponsor is Flagner, which I've had the fortunate ability to meet you guys. That's one of my favorite things is meeting the Rileys. I'm just gonna put you guys up on a pedestal here. You deserve
Thanks.
it. Um, Honestly, like for Flagner, like I said, for Canadian athletes to gain American sponsorship is not very easy at all. So to get that recognition for putting in the work to be acknowledged by American companies is, in my opinion, a big deal. I love what the brand stands for. It's literally just to me means no excuses. Like it's all in or nothing. And that's kind of how I treat life as a whole, especially the stage. It's either all in or nothing at all. I'm also with Grindstone Blends. So it's a cream of rice company. I've sent the Rileys out some packages and they really love it. I need to send them
Wow.
out some more. So it's excellent because you know what? It's great probiotic cream of rice, good for gut health, and it's a great source of fuel. So I use it literally every day. It's great for like workouts. If I'm running behind on a meal and I'm in the gym with clients, it takes like 2 to 3 minutes in a microwave, and I have this ready to go. I'm also sponsored by Demus, so they're a brand of more accessories. So everything from weight belts, straps, gloves, you name it.
So, and I realize as being a sponsored athlete in the past for my racing, that's another job, making sure that you take care of your sponsors and you do what they need you to do, wear their apparel, promote their apparel, be on social media, be active, build your following. And so I guess the point I wanted to make with that for everybody here, and Greg said earlier, making no excuses because you don't have time. It's about, being disciplined and figuring it out if it's something that you really want. And he has shown the ability to run what I consider multi-businesses. He's running a social media platform. He's got multiple sponsors. He's got a business that he personally owns, which is bodybuilding business, and then he works for somebody. So I just love that about you, Greg. And what I want to cap it off, and please raise your hands if you have a question. Again, we want to be fair to Greg because he's got to get back to work. But to cap that off is Greg is one of the nicest, kindest individuals that I've met through social media and on a podcast. Anytime I've ever said something to him, we had dialogue. He's always so grateful. He's always got a smile. So imagine doing all those things that he does and doing it with a smile all day, every day without fail. So Greg, kudos to you. And thank you for being the person that you are. Thank you for giving us some of your time. Throw those hands up if you got questions while you're thinking about it, because I don't see hands up yet. I'll let Sam say something because I know she wanted to say hi.
Oh, well, I have my flannel on, so you guys don't see my muscles. They're as big as Greg's. I've been working out.
There they are.
No, thank you. Greg's one of the hardest workers. He's so passionate about everything he does. I was super fortunate to be able to manage the athletes for a couple months when I worked for Flag. And there was lots of great people, but Greg just resonated with me. And I'd always come home and I'd be like, oh, this happened or this happened. I'd be like, but it's okay because I get to talk to Greg today and he makes everything better. And he just has such a great outlook on life. And so thank you for all that. But yeah, I need to come to Canada and get some workouts in for sure.
All right,
I'm trying to force my way down there.
Good.
we'll all host you. Rod, let's go to you real quick, and then we've got a question from Taylor.
Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate just the way you approach life. It really came through, and I've got a specific question because I know what it's like to juggle. That's what I call it, juggling. I'm a professional juggler is what I am. You got all these different projects up in the air at any given time. So if you can speak to us just a little bit about how you handle or deal with distractions. And I don't care what kind of distractions, because we all have them, and I know you do. So how do you deal with those distractions when you've got a schedule and a full plate?
Dealing with distractions, honestly, for me, I tend to look at the bigger picture of things. Like for me personally, like I am very much into meditation, especially when I get close to show, because it's something that I find like breathing and stuff like that helps me backstage, or as soon as I step on stage, I have to be cool, calm, and collective, because you get sometimes 15 seconds to showcase something that you've worked months and months just to show off. So for me, it's dealing with distractions. I just find my calm at that point. I find I don't get distracted too easily anymore, just because I know what it is I'm going after. I think when someone can focus on the things that they want most, nothing else that's worthy of being a distraction matters.
Yeah, great question.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg.
So Taylor's question, Greg, is thanks for being here. What have been some of the biggest obstacles that you have overcome in your journey?
Ooh, biggest ops, honestly, biggest obstacle I would definitely say is family, actually.
Mm.
I grew up with my mom, single mother, and two older sisters. And unfortunately, me and the two sisters, or all the siblings, were just did not get along. Um, we grew up in tough areas that didn't really help either. So, between my sisters getting into trouble for various things that unfortunately don't need details, but I think the biggest thing was eventually at some point in time saying, okay, enough is enough. Unfortunately, it's easy to cut people out of your life. It's even harder to cut family out.
Yeah.
But when there's better for you out there, then you're willing to make that sacrifice. Because for me to, within this situation, cut my sisters out, gave me the ability to provide for my mother. And she's the person I will always stand toe to toe for. So that was probably my biggest challenge in life.
Awesome. Thanks for that really transparent answer. Riley, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, I appreciated that you said that you absolutely do not work on the weekends. And because I think that that's really hard these days, especially I feel like we live in this hustle culture, especially when you have lofty goals, is that you do more, you do more, you do more. Do you get a lot of like pressure to do things on the weekend, and if so, like how do you handle that, and how do you keep yourself feeling like not feeling guilty to not work on the weekends?
I mean, I think my family in itself would stiff arm me if I didn't make time for them. But you know what? I've spent a lot of years working those weekends, working those long nights. Like I've done everything from club security, which put my life in danger most of the time. But ultimately, it was just a matter of saying, you know what, you need rest. That's, I think, the biggest and most important thing is putting your foot down for your own sake and your own rest. When you're going, spinning the wheels over and over and over again, your weekdays bleed into your weekend. Where's the time for yourself? Sometimes I think as people, we deserve just to be able to lie down on the couch or look at the ceiling that we're putting so much effort into maintaining. I think it's fair that you deserve to have that time off on the weekends. I don't think anyone should ever make you feel guilty for saying, I'm putting myself first. Because when you put yourself first, you can put the people that are the most important to you first as well. And I'm guessing it's that handsome guy right next to you.
Good man. Thanks for your question, Riley. Greg, just a health question. We've talked about some wellness, how you approach things mentally, but when it comes to food that you put in your body, any overarching recommendations? I think we've already talked about, your weight is won in the kitchen, not in the gym. So maybe we can overarching answer there.
But I mean, when it comes to health, people have different ways of approaching it. A lot of the time, people get fixated, say, on a number. I think that's the biggest thing people kind of go towards. Mind you, what I do involves me counting calories and things like that. But when it comes to like making a lifestyle change, and that's really what the focus of, let's say food in the kitchen is for your body, people I think need to be a little bit more gentler with themselves. And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to count every calorie, just make better choices. So like, I would never stop anyone and my clients from going out, for example. But if they go out, they can make a healthier choice, instead of ordering let's just say, pasta fazool and lasagna, let's go with the grilled chicken, asparagus. Things are still taste, in my opinion, delicious. That's one way of doing things. Or just learning simple things like portion sizes, right? Stick to your proteins, your complex carbs, your vegetables. It's not ever made to be overly complicated unless you do what I do. Then it has to be complicated because one guy beats you based on like 5 grams of chicken that you didn't eat one day. But I think for people, I think it's just making simple, better choices, eating out less, cooking your food at home. These things, in my opinion, taste better. It tastes like it's loved, and it's better for you overall.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate that. We got 2 more questions up. Do you have time for 2 more?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Riley. You got another one?
This one is me.
Okay, go for it.
I was curious. You're super motivated. You focus on your trait. How do you get back on track? Because I imagine, with bodybuilding, there are injuries. How do you get yourself back on track and back focused to your task and what your goals are after you've been down and disappointed about something?
Honestly, when it comes to this, you got to look at it from every time you step on stage, or in my case, did I step on stage? Did I improve? You never know what the true outcome is going to be. You think you're the best that day, and all of a sudden, this freak of nature shows up and you lose. But you have to hold your head. You have to hold your head high for that, because in the day, you know what? I actually made a post today, and I literally, the first thing I said was, showing up is the most difficult thing anyone has to do. And most people never show up, not even for themselves or family. So if you can show up, take pride in that. Whether you win or lose that day, you showed up and you gave it your all. That's one of the things that I think helps me bounce back whenever I don't maybe get a placing that I hoped for. Or if I'm injured, and it's happened to me before, where I actually got injured last year, yes, this sucks tremendously, but can I fix this? Can I improve? And if you find in any situation, no matter what it is, bodybuilding or not, if there's room for improvement, then there's a light. There's a way to go. And I think if you see a way to go, you should go for it.
I love that. Good answer, Greg. I mean, we've all heard it before, even if you just go into the gym and show up for 5 minutes and leave, at least you showed up to the gym, and then you build off that 5 minutes and keep coming back if that's what it takes. Somebody was asking for you to expand a little bit more on being bullied when you were chubby. Find that hard to believe you're ever chubby, but obviously it was enough to motivate you to change your lifestyle. But there's so many excuses out there. Well, my kid's chubby because it's genetics or whatever. Reality is, I think it's different. But what are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to it, I think genetics can have a factoring, but change is possible. But for me, it was, I think the day, like, somebody, and he ended up being a good friend of mine later on, but he walked up to me, like, put his nose up like this, snorted, and called me piggy, and like squealed.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never hit a person outside of my weight class, but I realized that was a day that I almost did. And I was big into self-control. And I realized, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like what I see. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to change this. Like, and it sucks, trust me, I got bullied a lot. And like, bullying could be like some of the most, mundane, like, you don't even notice the kind of thing. But like, even just, having a crush on a girl in school. I tell a girl I liked her, and she's like, "Oh, like, you're like a big brother to me." It was because I was chubby.
Mm.
And then years later, losing all the weight, not to brag, I had a very interesting lineup of people wanting to talk to me or go to the prom with me, which I did not take them to prom, of course, but an elephant never forgets.
Interesting. Greg, I have another question for you. I've been fortunate enough to work with a number of athletes and celebrities in my career. And I just consider them and you that 1% club. And, you know, for us to be in the company, listening to you talk about your discipline and things like that, I know you probably wouldn't say that you're the part of the 1% club, but you are, especially when you look at the competition of other athletes that Flag Nor Fail, as an example, picks. They don't just pick anybody. They're picking the 1%. How do you maintain that? And do you feel that you're in that club where you need to maintain a certain level on a regular basis, or what are your thoughts around that compliment?
It definitely can be a lot of pressure at times. I know when I first started, like especially when I got the sponsorship, I thought to myself, "Oh crap, I could never let my stomach go. Like I have to have a six pack all the time." But you know, realizing that that wasn't the case. Yeah, it's important for me to maintain and stay in shape. But what I realized was it it's the same reason why you have me here on this call is the same reason why anybody listens to me in the first place. It's not because of like the stage leanness that is 3% and lasts for, let's just say, less than 10% of your life. It's people seeing that you're putting in the work and your mindset to do these things, whether you maintain it for the rest of your life or not. Because definitely the one thing I don't want is for my value to only be in my physicality. I want it to be for what I stand for and how I think and how I behave. That's what's most important to me. But this is to say the pressure can be there at times. But you
Yeah.
realize it's more than just the physical.
Yeah. Jim was asking who you look up to or follow for inspiration and learning in your life.
Well, Riley's. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna do that
We're
again.
new in your life, though.
No, but you guys are hella cool.
Thank you.
Like I enjoy the simple things in life, and I feel like you guys as well. And you guys work hella hard for everything you have. Like I don't go outside and feed chickens. That's still a lot of work. I just eat the chickens. But when it comes to looking up to people, obviously, of course, my mom, little 5'3", you know, powerhouse, lion-hearted woman. When it comes to the industry, I do look up to Terrence Ruffin.
Mhm.
I think he grew up with his mom as well, and just a lot of the way he grew up was similar to mine. So to see someone excel in this sport the way that he has, like I don't honestly like, yeah, he hasn't placed the best always in the last couple of years, but I've seen him improve to get back to that top spot. And it's just someone that kind of comes from the same background I do. So
Yeah.
I very much look up to Terrence.
Yeah,
And of course, obviously Rob and Dana, like that's without saying.
sure. And by the way, for everybody in the group, I'll tag them on an Instagram with Young Entrepreneurs so you know some of these people Greg's talking about. And you should be following Greg on Instagram. He's posting some nice workouts. Greg, I'm going to keep sucking up your time today. See, I got to go.
It's hard to
So
leave. I love you guys.
I appreciate that. So you did bring up something that came to mind just now, because I'm familiar with where you work out. You work out with other 1%ers. I mean, I know you spend time with Frank and some of these other guys. What is that like working out with other people, you know, that are of similar caliber to you? And can you touch on the importance of who we surround ourselves with just in life in general?
When it comes to working out with the other 1%, it's highly motivating because it's almost like nobody wants to let up and give in. Especially with bodybuilding, it's all about giving that push. And you almost want to see where you can make the other person tap out, but not really. But like I have a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, and he's in the men's physique division. And my joke to him is always, okay, if we're training together, but you gotta train legs, and then we'll get a steak. Because men's physique guys don't really like to train legs like I do.
Right.
But when it comes to surrounding yourself with the right people, it's very, very crucial. Having a cancer in the room does not help the bigger picture of your success because we tend to become the people we surround ourselves with. And, you know, and it might not seem obvious at first, but eventually, you know, if we're hanging around lazy people, what happens to you? And most people, they've probably seen this in their life at some point in time. When you start to see things differently and you're like, you know what, I have bigger fish to fry, I have goals. Don't they see people start to fall off on their own? It just kind of happens that way. And it's not to say these people are not friends anymore, but they don't necessarily surround you. I think when it comes to having goals, whatever they might be, you want to surround yourself with people with very similar mindsets. And it's not to make you sound or be better than anybody else. It's just, that's just it. To me, that's just what it is. If you have somewhere you want to be, you got to hang out with people that are already there or on the way there.
Yeah, I can just envision you guys working out in the gym. I've seen some of the pictures, the aftermath of it, but I can just hear the banter and the back and forth. I mean, you guys are all animals up there. What is there, 3 flag athletes that work out in the same gym?
So we actually we have Frank, as everybody knows. We have Cody, we have Emerson. We're all in the same gym there.
Yeah, all of similar status as yourself, working hard to achieve the same results. You know, all the above with sponsors and everything.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think actually, if I heard correctly, I think me and Cody are probably going to be competing against each other.
Hmm.
Ooh, nice.
But I think
Okay.
I think no one's saying anything to each other just to kind of like keep an eye on each other.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right. You got one?
I just have a question, and I know it's such a big thing right now in how people diet, but I've been super fortunate when I got into fitness and working out, which didn't happen till I was about 30 or 29. Anyways, no, just kidding. I totally ruined that. I had kids before that. I don't know. Anyways, my late 20s is when I got into my like crazy competing for Spartan racing, but I didn't have to worry about what I ate because I was, you know, running 40 miles a week and spending my whole life in the gym. But now I'm at a different place where I'm, you know, 36 and my body's changing and all the things, but everybody's stuck on intermittent fasting. And I'm sorry if any of these came up before I got on the call here, but such a big deal for everybody. Seems like they're on this intermittent fasting kick thing. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on that and the benefits of that.
So actually, as I get closer to 35 next month, I actually do intermittent fasting myself. So I found that was especially for me when it came to prep, that was the thing that helped me gradually come down with my actual weight, because I do have to hit a certain weight when it comes to stage. I can't just go in heavy. But I found the thing for me is it helped me just digest better overall. Especially for me, that was, you know, constantly on the go, you know, maybe having a meal that was super late. I'd wake up and the food was still there in my stomach by the time I even got to the treadmill. Whereas now everything is sped up like exponentially just doing that. Mind you, the one thing I will say, and people get this confused all the time, is intermittent fasting isn't for people just because they choose not to, or they quote unquote don't have time to eat. We all have time to eat. Like I said, a cream of rice bowl takes me 3 minutes. I've done dumber things in 2 minutes. So realistic, I think intermittent fasting has great benefits for digestion, even just mental clarity. Monks do this for days on end to reach quote unquote enlightenment. And I found even just like my overall thinking and also my discipline to be like to tell myself I'm not actually hungry, I'm thirsty. Like I can recognize what my body actually needs in that moment versus thinking I gotta like put something in my mouth. Because a lot of times we're just eating. A lot of times people do eat just for the sake of they think they're hungry and they're not. I do it too when I'm not in prep. I'm not going to pretend I'm not an angel. No, I think I stand with intermittent fasting, but I just think it comes down to asking yourself, am I doing this because it's for the weight loss journey, or I'm telling myself I don't have time to make breakfast? Meanwhile, I'm watching TV for the first 2 hours of my day, and I'm just forgetting that there's eggs in the fridge.
So Greg, it's 5 a.m. You know, you got to get up and get your day going. What do you tell yourself on those days you don't want to get up at all?
Get your ass out of bed, man. No one else is gonna do this for you. Point
Yeah.
blank.
Yeah, exactly. What's next for you? You got maybe we won't announce it, something in May, but career wise,
I'll happily explain May, but I've decided to compete in the Pittsburgh Pro and the week later the New York Pro.
awesome.
So
So
2 road trips.
So leading up to that, obviously it gets intense. Is it dramatically more intense leading up to it in terms of time in the gym, or is it just a continuation of what you're doing and fine tuning?
It's I tend to have a switch that goes off where it definitely does get more intense because I'm a little bit more like I'm hungry. Like I'm really hungry for it. Like I know who I get to go up against, and I love them all, but I want to beat them.
Of course.
So I don't go in there with a half-ass mentality. I'm just like, well, it's time flies, especially like I am 14 weeks away from this, and like you blink and it's 8, you blink it's 6, you blink it's 2, and then boom, you're there. So it's definitely a lot more intensity in the gym, but it's also a lot more time management as well, especially when you get that second portion of cardio in a day. So it's the morning cardio, the weight training, and then the post, and then still have to go about your day and work. That's when things get a little hectic, but I welcome it all.
I know we kind of glossed over it, and I see a hand raised. I know we glossed over it real quick. Part of what you have to do to compete is you got to have a routine too. You got to pick your song and build a routine out, right? So that's a whole other aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite parts, actually.
Matt, did you have a question?
There you go.
Yeah, real quick, Greg. Over the years of training, what I would say the question that I get asked the absolute most is so basic, and I want to hear your take on it. Is they'll sit there and they'll go, "How do I look like you?" And to me, it's like I don't even know where to start. And I have a really rudimentary approach of it. It's just like put the work in, kind of. So if I went to you, Greg, and I asked you, because literally people will just say it like that, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, Greg, how, if I went to you and say, hey, Greg, how do I look like you? What is the, without like basically telling people, well, you kind of have to put the work in or be passionate about it. I tend to tell people like, you have to find what works for you, because what you and I do in the gym is not what everybody else is going to want to do, because they want to be fit though. So how do you approach a question like that?
Honestly, I kind of flip it on them. I turn around and I say, well, why would you want to look anything like me? How about you look like the best version of you and look better than me? And then I get the gears to spin. I'm like, let's not fixate on how I look, because I'm just as unique as you are. Why don't we see the best version of you? You might not even like the way that I train. Like I have clients that I don't necessarily weight train the same way. I have them doing jumps, battle ropes, kettlebell swings, things like that, where I probably have a small heart attack doing half of it half the time.
Absolutely agree with that. Thank you.
No problem. But yeah, just what? Remind them that it's their journey. Like you're just the guide. That's it.
And Greg, that's why I love you the most, because you always put it back in their court in the most positive way to make them feel good. And I've seen that, in your Instagram posts, the things that you said, the things that you do. So let's wrap it up and get you back to your job and all that. But any closing thoughts for everybody, just as it relates to, whether it's being an entrepreneur at your job that you're at now, or being an entrepreneur with your bodybuilding and your sponsors and all that other stuff?
I guess the way I'd close this off is the same way that I kind of approach everything. Nobody owes you anything. It's a blessing when people are there to help you. So very much ensure that you're surrounded by the best people you possibly can be. But when it comes to going after your goals, go after them like they're nobody else's. Anyone that's in your corner will only benefit from them, but only if you're willing to put in the work. That's how I see it.
Yeah, what a great philosophy. So, Greg, I want to thank you for being willing to come on, find time in your workday to be here. I put it in the notes, everybody. If you want to order something from Flag Nor Fail, use Greg's code. He gets credit for that. That is how
Thanks, guys.
he makes his living. If you need a flannel, there are some of the best flannels we've had.
Or a
Greg,
cool hoodie.
you don't have to send us more, but I loved the product that you sent our way. That was my breakfast for a long time. So thank you for that. But if you follow Greg, you can see some of the brands that he represents, and he represents them because I think that they're a great extension of who Greg is and what he believes and how he approaches life. I don't think he just does it because they asked him to be an athlete. He does it for a purpose, right?
It has, honestly, for me, it has to represent me. I don't, the last thing I want is like, why do you like this? And just be like, it tastes good. It has to legit make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think like stuff like gut health is so important for digesting everything in your day. So this cream of rice makes sense. Flag Nor Fail is my way of approaching life. I do not carry excuses. When it comes to even the D-Moose belts, it's literally, if you're going in the gym, you want to feel safe, you want to be secure. If you're going to be pushing for that PR, why not be safe doing it? I'm not going to ever tell anyone to hit 500 on a deadlift and not have their lumbar supported. That would make me a terrible person. So
Good point. Hey, real quick, how did you get the deal with Flag Nor Fail? Did you reach out to them, or did they, run into you? How did that happen?
so funny enough, when I was going for my pro card, a good friend of mine, Steph, she's eye for an eye photography. She does all my photos, all my videos. She had actually quietly reached out to the previous athlete manager and was like, this is my friend. I was always wearing flannel to begin with, even to the gym, to the club, to the bar. It didn't matter. That's what I was doing. And they were like, well, if he gets his pro card, consider him in. I had no idea this was happening. I was just so fixated. I wasn't even on social media like that, to be honest with you. I just wanted to focus on the task in hand. And then got the pro card. I'm celebrating with family and friends. And then I started noticing all these very interesting follows, all from Flag. And I was like, I've been following Flag for so long. Why are they looking at me? And then she just kind of like sprinkled in my ear. She's like, don't post any other brand if any other brand is talking to you. I'm like, okay. And then the athlete manager reached out. I talked to Rob, and boom, just like that. I was very fortunate and blessed to be part of the Flag Nor Fail team.
Yeah. And by the way, if you didn't catch it, Greg just gave you another layer of his life and some of the roles that he has. And that's hiring a photographer, hiring a videographer, making sure that you're capturing those moments for your social media to build your brand and all those other things. I mean, it constantly is a building block of stuff that you have to do that I'm amazed that you can do it all.
When I love something, I give my all to it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll leave it at that. And I'll add a couple closing comments unless anybody in the groups has a final question for Greg, our business questions for myself or Rod about young entrepreneur stuff. But the point of having Greg on tonight is I wanted to express to everybody the importance of discipline and us getting out of our own ways. So often we have these excuses of why we can't do something, how there isn't enough time. Whatever you've got going on in your life, it becomes an excuse. And when you take somebody like Greg and you look at all those businesses and all those things that he does to find success, not only as an entrepreneur, he talked about his job earlier on and the responsibility he has there. He casually mentioned he's in the process of training somebody right now. But on top of that, this bodybuilding career that he's spending multiple hours doing and training and eating and family and 4 cats and all these things. So, I don't want to hear in this group that you don't have time, because time could be made if you're passionate about it. And you could be one of those 1%ers like Greg is if you wanted to put in that kind of effort. So, Greg, thank you for being such a great example for all of us to follow and hear from live on the call. And we'd love to have you back after May to tell us how it went. We'll be watching on the stories.
Definitely. I'm honestly, thank you guys so much. And thank you to everybody that give me the chance to just rant and speak to you guys. It's a pleasure.
No rant here, Greg. Thank you so much. All right, Greg better have at least a dozen more followers by the end of this call. Looking forward to next Monday night's call. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to wrap it up there a few minutes early, but thank you those that came on as special guests, and appreciate everybody else. Greg, be well, buddy. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.